Strawberry Island celebration, wondering where Aaron is. Thanks, bye.
Good morning. We'd like to welcome everybody to the Strawberry Island Homecoming Celebration here in Lac du Flambeau, Wisconsin. Good morning, everybody. Bonjour and miigwech for coming. Today's celebration is a historic event here for our people and for our entire Ojibwe Nation. Just behind me, the backdrop on Flambeau Lake, you can see Strawberry Island, where much of our history throughout our contemporary existence was affected by the island and the events that happened on the island. For 104 years, the tribe had lost the island through, I don't know if it was, what sort of means the island was lost. I've heard different accounts, I've heard different people say different things, but
the city stole it.
I have our tribal president tell me that it was stolen from our people. And it's taken 104 years to return, but it's here, and we thank everybody for being here. We're running a little bit behind this morning. I do want to acknowledge our visitors, our elders. We have our tribal president in attendance today. We have a number of council people. I see Councilman Santi Esteban, Councilman Big John. I see Treasurer Peterson, on and on. We have visitors from Mole Lake. I'd like to acknowledge them. Visitors from Bad River, Joe Dan Rose, and Joe Sr. and Joe Dan. So thank you for coming. Like I said, it's an historic event today, and one that will definitely stay with us for generations to come. We're going to have our drum, Tomahawk Circle, do a quick warm-up song, get their vocal cords warmed up, and then we'll begin our program. Thank you. Thank you, Tomahawk Circle. At this time, we're going to call for our veterans. As the veterans are getting ready, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Brandon Tomes. My Indian name is Bawaji Gayash. I am the Director of Public Relations for the tribe here in Lac du Flambeau. There's no better place in the world to work or live than here. Those of you that know me know that I've been involved in the community for a number of years. And Strawberry Island holds a special place in everybody that's from Lac du Flambeau in their hearts. And I remember back in 1992, 3, 4, 5, when the island was in limbo, doing events and special ceremonies to try and bring back the island to the reservation, to our people. So this has really come full circle. While veterans are getting ready, I'd also like to acknowledge Senator Bob Jalk, who is a great friend of our tribe, a great ambassador, and he's going to be leaving, but he will never be forgotten. He'll be with us from here on out. Thank you, Senator Bob Jalk, for attending. At this time, we'd ask everyone to rise. We're going to have Tomahawk Circle perform a veteran song. Our veterans will bring in the colors and post them. Tomahawk Circle.
Hey!
Miigwech Tomahawk Circle, and Miigwech veterans. Okay, if you would please remain standing, we're going to have Tomahawk Circle do flag song 2 times through, and the veterans will post the colors. Oh, Miigwech Tomahawk Circle. At this time, we're going to ask one of our spiritual leaders, the director of our language program here on the reservation, Mr. Leon Boise Valier, to come up and say a prayer. You can be seated. Thank you.
Bonjour, Mira binawa o maayos kwa monji itiang me wa ma moe kinawia ka pija chikama nung gumgeni na ma miigwech ya auga wesh tu ka kina marido na garan sa tama shkaming chiminagi jiga kuma waswagring nung gumgi jigat binawa uwichi marido man wiwa e awat mi ke ma shkaming binawa e ajit wadi ke a gi jigong be babam seja kuma nishnabe walking mi dash wiwa e awat ma nabi kam binawa dash naganazit anam kamik Mina o wichi maniduman. Begitu go ayajik uma nungum geyaabi miigwech uyag ajwa dash uma mamisha ngetwa kena manidu miniguwen. Migegitu go ajwa mamu yo ma geyaabi minjmen da na waga ajwe batama waswagring meuja. Mike ama o Pakanin wechik wirwa boashi getugo ge wirwa ukichadawa menwa da shuche boena shrabe megwa ge miga de doa de iwapi optimaji web zawad mige getugo ga web rajwa da shwinba ga anji go zawad udi ke ama ingabe nunga jawad di ke ama boani walking nungum dash ke abe uche boena shrabe ge ji dawa tama get to go get kidding go geyaabi the nishnabe uchibo nishnabe Kenda no ga jue but the ma jua ga mi ga te doa the ma geyaabi da she awa we wa ga ishwa na moa geyaabi da she awa the ma mira shoma nungum geyaabi ishpenda zuwa mira shoma nungum ge bishku au kete aya a ni we ban na au aki wenzi the ba gi shi ka ban shi na kazo ingo dengi ti ja da wa swagring ga jua da shoki da shdan ga jue but ni ke ma mi menwa da shu de menwa da ma ki ke a kanega ka da shdan na wa ga jue but wodi ke a mirash ke do mi wenji nungum geyaabi ishpenda gwa ki yo minising mi ke a mi ge to nan go de no na on ni ganas benesi we buni ma when it comes mi da shoma nungum mi wenji geyaabi da ga win kawia nungum geyaabi we pi jasi mi ke ma minising mi da shoma nungum bishku win wa ki ti ai ga kedo wat mi o ga nakrim wat mani do mi wenji ma geyaabi nungum we win go an shnabe we win bizindana wa ga kedo wat we wa ki ti ai mira shoma nungum geni na jua ga ki yan ma gwej bagwa mani do we wa geyaabi wudu ko awan ma ai awa waswa gring men wa dash we wa pi mor suwe che ko manungum ki chi ai aga ki wenzi ak ben boy ak na ni wa ki kwe wa oshkini ki kwe ak oshkin ni ak ki kwe za sa ku za sa abanuji aga abanuji sa ke tu go ke on za ke on dar ji je ni ga ke abe to da nungum ge an shnabe we when is go nigan geyaabi kashketu men the ganawendaamin o mani do men go when get to go ge jua ni ke ma ode'imini minising ira shumanu to go bangi ni we chumok man ta ga zian ma jua dashkeni mi which we are we no ne moji ka pi jawa ga manu ma jua we no ne ga mo nun da wa ka ken go ji an shnabe walking I want to welcome everyone here today. Very briefly, to translate for our visitors that didn't really follow my speech too well, what I wanted to say is our collective expression of gratitude today for the beautiful day and our continued recognition of all of the things that we've been gifted with, this beautiful earth, this beautiful water, all of our resources. My expression of gratitude for that and our ability to be here today as we continue to remember the history of our territory and most specifically this island. I spoke very briefly about some of the things that our elders have said over the years pertaining to the significance of this island. I spoke of our relatives who have changed their address and have moved to the west. The great Sioux Nation. Some of their representatives are here today. I spoke of our ancestors and the great battle that took place on this island. And in keeping with that, the great peace that was made between our tribes. And today we no longer fight. Today we have everlasting peace between these two great nations. This is the will of the Great Spirit, and this is what we follow today. So I want to say Pila Melo to my Lakota brothers and sisters that are present today. And also, I also mentioned the fact, as we've been taught, the sacred nature of our island, what it represents to us as a people. And in this teaching, I guess, just wanted to remind everyone what it is we're taught. And that is the respect that we have for this sacred island. And as I was told, we're really supposed to stay off that island. And there's other people that will tell you other things. And the only thing I can share with you is what I was told. I was told to stay off that island. The island is a sacred place. It is the resting area, just like our memorial cemetery down the street here. It is a place that we're taught to allow the resting to rest. And the other significance of our island here, the spirits that reside on this island in a clean, uncontaminated place where the spirits of our community work each day and each night on behalf of our community. So I wanted to say that much. And once again, I recognize all of our people here today. I want to say miigwech for coming, all of our visitors. I acknowledge our drum, and I'll say about that much. Miigwech, you.
Miigwech, Boise. At this time, I'm going to ask that our tribal president, our leader, come up and say the opening invocation. Welcoming.
Would you? I say miigwech to the drummers, and we're good songs this morning. Thanks. Because that's really what it's all about. Hey Bill, can you hear me back there? Okay. I'll try not to use this. Okay. Brandon's got the magic touch here. But I want to say miigwech to the people that travel far to come here. It's been a long time, a hard struggle for this community to once again take back the island. I'm not the one to fall short of words. They stole it from us. They stole it from them older people that didn't understand way back then. For some menial tools, rake, shovels, or whatever it took. If my colleague Brooke Big John, he went to Duluth and he made study of this particular island and talked about it. But I'm really glad here today to see the different nations that are participating. We had a gathering here some years ago, and we had our brothers, the Lakota people, and it was in the same area. We had a sunrise ceremony, we talked about that. And earlier, for the ones that weren't here, we had that eagle come by and really check us all out to see if we're really telling the truth. And it's really great to see that, because those are things that, bear the opportunities to make sure that what we're saying here is going to be testy. Is that okay? No? All right. But I just think that let's look at this day today. It's a beautiful day. And I want to recognize our leadership that I'd like to have. Maybe a lot of people don't know them. If the Lackawanna Tribal Government would stand up that's here. Please. I see Mary, Ruben, Brooks, Mike. Anybody else?
Frank's owner.
Way back there, Alice, Frank. Can't hide. Frank can't hide. I don't care where he's at. Okay. He's always giving it to me. He's on the back there. I don't know. Are you selling something back there, Frank? But who we got over there? Gus? Great. We've been busy. The tribe's been busy for quite a while here. Accomplished a lot of things. Confederacy. Would you? Okay. I guess we're going to have to buy one or fix it or do something with this, but we got a good guy right here that does all that type of stuff. We had a Confederacy meeting here of the Ojibwe tribes yesterday. We identified that we're going to have this gathering, and it's really appreciative that Bad River's here. I believe Mole Lake is here also. They had a contingency of young people, and it just some beautiful days that led up to where we're at here today in Waswaganim. And if I missed anybody, I know I can't keep saying, well, Bob, Bob Jock is a real friend of Indian people, and we got to continue to acknowledge that. He said he's going to continue to work hard. We've got our CEO back there with a potential CEO down the road a ways. We just have a lot of things that we've been doing, as you guys know, and sometimes it's hard to follow. But this is one major event that we definitely were looking forward to, because it's been a lot of hard years. I know a lot of our elders that have walked on have supported this. We've heard, and we've got documents saying if anyone was to build on that island, there would be no buildings, no matter if they tried to build on it. That's how tough it was in their heart to make sure that that island stays safe and secure and religious the way it was. So I just want to welcome everybody to Waswaganing and hope that you have a beautiful morning like it started out, and hopefully that we'll continue to do that here. Miigwech on behalf of the tribal government.
Miigwech, President Molson. At the time
We'll have some technical difficulties. At this time, we're going to ask Tomahawk Circle to do a honor song. Take it away, guys.
Thank you again, Tomahawk Circle. These young men travel all over the country representing the tribe. They won the Hunting Moon Contest Powwow in Milwaukee, so they're reigning champs right now. And they're just a really great group of young men, the future of our tribe. So I'd like to thank them. Give them a round of applause, please. Check, check. We're going to break from the format of our agenda briefly to accommodate one of our elders who traveled quite a distance. Joe Rose from Bad River. Joe Rose. Whenever I travel and I see Indian people, if I'm away from home, it just gives me a really good, a warm feeling. And when I see people from other reservations that I know in our community, I feel really good. So I just want to thank everyone for traveling. Our like President Malson said, our visitors. Just thank you for being here. Check, check, check. At this time, we're going to introduce Joe Rose, who's going to say a few words. Joe Rose.
Bojo Kwewa Nenawakai Mokangizis Nenajan Kaz Magazine and Odem Moskazipi and Donjapa Odena and Donjapa Nimadewa Nene. My Anishinaabe name is Rising Sun. I'm Eagle Clan of the Bad River Band, member of the Medewan. And it's good to be here on this Minungizigud, this beautiful day. Been asked to talk about treaty history. And I know there's several other speakers, so I got about 20 minutes here. And normally what would take me 14 weeks in a classroom, I'm going to try and condense it into 20 minutes here. Kind of a tough thing to do. But the first treaties between the European colonies that settled on the eastern seaboard, that is the Dutch, 1598, Manhattan, the English, 1607, Jamestown, the French, 1608, Quebec. Those first treaties were always treaties of peace and friendship. And there was a reason for that. The reason being that the balance of power weighed heavily in favor of the tribes at that time. And in fact, when those European powers began to engage in that rivalry for power and control on the North American continent, which ended up with a tug of war between pretty much France and England, and neither of those European powers, could have fielded an army without their Indian allies. So those peoples of the Iroquois Confederacy pretty much allied with the British. Peoples of the Algonquin Confederacies, including our people, allied with the French. There was a great war that was fought between the British and their Indian allies and the French and their Indian allies. Started around 1754. Decisive battle was around 1759. There was a treaty that ended that war between England and France in 1763. It's called the Treaty of Paris, in which the French capitulated to the British. One of the allies of the French was one of our relatives. His name was Pontiac. Otherwise, they pronounce it Pontiac. We say Pontiac. Great Ottawa war chief, Ottawa war chief, who resided down by what is Detroit, Michigan today. He refused to accept the idea that the French and the British had, that the French had buried the hatchet with the British and capitulated. He organized his own confederacy of many different Algonquin tribes. And during the summer of 1763, he engaged the British and practically drove the British off of the continent of North America. They had the most powerful army in the world at that time. There were 12 major British installations or forts in the Great Lakes area at that time. Pontiac and his confederacy were able to capture 8 out of 12 of those forts, forced abandonment of 2 others, and laid siege to Ticonderoga and Detroit. And so, by October, those warriors had to abandon that siege to become hunters and providers, to go back and to prepare for the winter. Otherwise, their families would starve to death. So at that time, the British gained a toehold in the western Great Lakes area. The French were the first ones to come in here. Then the British, there was a period of French influence, a period of British influence, and then finally a period of American control. And so it wasn't too long after that great war between the French and the British that there were hostilities that occurred between the American colonies on the eastern seaboard. Started in 1775. The Declaration of Independence was signed July 4th, 1776. Began that war of independence. British General Cornwallis surrendered to Colonial General George Washington in 1781. There was another Treaty of Paris, 1783, where the British capitulated to the colonies. So the United States became a country at that time. But the British still maintained a strong interest in the Great Lakes area until after the Second War with England. We call that the War of 1812. So that war ended with the Treaty of Ghent, Belgium. And that's when the period of American control began. It was no longer a period of colonial interest, but a period of American control. And that's when the balance of power shifted in favor of the United States as a nation. And so at that time, it was a time of westward expansion. There were slogans like Manifest Destiny that were almost sacred at that time. And so with this westward expansion, there were many tribes that were displaced from their land, kept moving further and further westward. And so there were hostilities between our people and other tribes, the Iroquois, the Dakota, and so on. The United States of America, they called a meeting over here at Prairie du Chien, Wisconsin. The published agenda was to establish peace between the different warring tribes. But there was also a hidden agenda there. The hidden agenda was they wanted to establish territories, and they wanted to establish ownership between these different tribes. And this was part of a plan that would come later, which would result in a whole series of land cession treaties. And so that was the Treaty of Prairie du Chien in 1825. So only 3 years later, Andrew Jackson was elected President of the United States. He ran on a very strong expansionist ticket. And he was one of those presidents that engaged in genocide against American Indian people. Pirates. And under the administration of President Andrew Jackson, the Congress of the United States passed the Indian Removal Act in 1830. And this gave the President of the United States the authority to forcibly remove any and all tribes residing east of the Mississippi River to those dry, arid wastelands west of the Mississippi River. And so you've probably heard about the Cherokee Trail of Tears, maybe about what they call the Black Hawk War right down here in northern Illinois, southern Wisconsin, where Black Hawk refused to enter into any of these land cession treaties. He took on the Illinois militia at 10-to-1 odds and routed them. The United States Army was called in, and it resulted in a massacre of Black Hawks, men, women, and children. And so that was, they called that the Black Hawk War. I call it the massacre of Black Hawks, men, women, and children. Now he was Ozaki. They're a culture that's very closely related to us, language and culture. And so it was only 5 years after that the lumbering interests began to covet the resources in northern Wisconsin, Minnesota, Michigan. And so our Indian leaders, our chiefs, they knew that they only had two choices at that time. And the balance of power had already shifted. And the first choice was to go to war with the military might of the United States. And they knew what had happened with some of the other tribes. The other choice was to sit down and to negotiate a treaty and to come out with the best deal that they could get. And when they sat down to negotiate those treaties, they were looking 7 generations down the road. And they were asking themselves, what will we be leaving to our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren, to those yet unborn? And so in those negotiations, they reserved certain rights that they always had. So they reserved the right to hunt and to fish and to gather on those lands, those millions of acres that they were ceding to the United States. And so that treaty focused on the lumbering interest. 1842 was another treaty, another land cession treaty, where we gave up millions of acres of land, and that focused on mining interests. And in those treaties, our leaders were assured that we would never be forcibly removed from our ancestral homelands if we did not make war on the settlers. So we were very surprised in 1850 when a removal order was issued for the Lake Superior Ojibwe. And so Chief Buffalo, out there on Madeline Island, one of the principal chiefs of our people, he sent runners out all over Indian country to find out if anyone had violated those treaties. They all came back one by one. No one had violated that agreement. That is not to make war on the settlers. And so, in order to force that issue, the United States government moved the Indian Agency from Madeline Island, La Pointe, over to Sandy Lake, Minnesota. Now, in those land cession treaties, where we gave up millions of acres of land for pennies on the dollar, there were annuities that were paid for those lands that were given up. And those lasted for a period of 20 years. And so the heads of household would go out there annually, that's why they called them annuities, and collect certain goods, certain food provisions, blankets, a little money and so on that would carry them through the year. And so people were living in utter poverty by this time because they could no longer follow their old traditional ways, their semi-nomadic lifestyle of hunting, fishing, and gathering. And so the government moved that agency from Madeline Island, La Pointe, over to Sandy Lake, Minnesota, to force our people to move further west. So this was late October. Most of them traveled by birch bark canoe. By the time they got over there, they found out that the agency over there had burned down, and so they started to make their way back home. By this time, it was cold. There was snow on the ground. The only thing that survived that fire over there, I guess, was some barrels of government salt pork. They were tired, cold, hungry, and so on. Started eating that salt pork, and it was tainted. Many of them died of food poisoning. Many of them died from cold and exposure on their way back to this area. So there were councils that were called by Chief Buffalo and the other Indian leaders. And so they decided in 1852 to send a delegation to Washington, D.C. to meet with the Commissioner of Indian Affairs. And so the first leg of that journey that took place, they launched a canoe over here at La Pointe, Madeline Island, traveled the full length of Lake Superior, took the railroad train into New York City, and from there over to Washington, D.C. It's a long story. But they had with them a man by the name of Benjamin Armstrong, a white man who became their interpreter. Very very familiar with Indian language, who later married one of Chief Buffalo's daughters. And so when they got to Washington, D.C., he decided to go and meet with the Commissioner of Indian Affairs. One of the first questions that was asked, did you have permission to take this journey? Well, Armstrong was thrown out of the office of the Commissioner of Indian Affairs. By this time, the Bureau of Indian Affairs was under the authority of the Department of Interior. Well, at first it was under the War Department, which gives you an idea of the attitude towards Indian people. But now it was under Department of Interior. So Armstrong decided to go over the head of the Commissioner of Indian Affairs to meet with the Secretary of the Interior, a cabinet level position. The same thing happened there. He was thrown out of the office of the Secretary of the Interior. So he began walking the streets of the capital, wondering what to do next. He went back to the hotel where the little delegation was staying. There was Chief Buffalo, Chief Oshogi, a couple of warriors, and Armstrong himself, who was their interpreter. So he got back to the hotel, and they were in the dining room. And when he told them the news that he'd been thrown out of the office of the Secretary of the Interior, it was a pretty sad looking group. And it just so happened that at the next table over there was the United States Senator, Senator Briggs, who could see that there was a problem, and he came over and introduced himself to the little delegation. And they explained to him that they understood that as long as they didn't make war on the settlers, that was part of the agreement, that they'd never be forcibly removed from their ancestral homelands. So Briggs said, maybe I'll try and get you an audience with the president. So by this time, President Zachary Taylor, who had issued the removal order, had died in office, and the vice president was Millard Fillmore. And so they met with President Millard Fillmore. Buffalo took out the big pipe, about 3 feet long, smoked it with Millard Fillmore and his cabinet and others, and they discussed the problem. There was nothing that really happened at that first meeting, but the Indian delegation felt pretty good, because for the first time somebody had listened to them. There was another meeting several days later, and President Millard Fillmore rescinded the removal order, made provisions for the delegation's return to the western Great Lakes area. But what was discussed at that second meeting was preparations for still another treaty. And that led up to the Treaty of La Pointe in 1854. And so this was good news and bad news. The good news was that this was a treaty that established the reservations for the Lake Superior Ojibwe in Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Michigan. So they were not forcibly removed to those dry, arid wastelands west of the Mississippi. The bad news was that this was still another land cession treaty where the Minnesota Ojibwe gave up the northeastern quarter of the state of Minnesota in the Treaty of 54. And so in these treaties, we were guaranteed the right to hunt, to fish, and to gather on all of those lands that were ceded to the United States, which was considerable. That would be the northern 1/3 of this state of Wisconsin, Upper Peninsula, Michigan, and the northeastern quarter of the state of Minnesota in those treaties of 36, 37, 42, and 54. And so the sad part about that is that those treaty rights were violated. Those treaties were broken until the Voigt decision of 1983, when the 7th District Court, Federal Court, reaffirmed the treaty rights, the rights to hunt, to fish, and gather in the ceded territory. And so there was another decision. Well, the Supreme Court declined to hear that case because it was so strong with the 7th District Court. Then there was another decision that was made in 1999. And that was Mille Lacs versus the state of Minnesota. And so there was Wisconsin bands had to join Mille Lacs in that case. So the Supreme Court decided in favor of the Lake Superior Ojibwe. But I can remember after the Voigt decision that there were those anti-treaty rights protesters that refused to accept that decision. And so I remember my son was working for Bad River DNR at that time. He told me, he said, we're going spearing. Okay, good. And at that time, it was when Tom here was heading up the Waswagan Treaty Association. I remember we'd go to these landings. We'd be met by 500 to 1,000 those drunken anti-treaty rights protesters. You had these local anti-treaty rights groups like Stop Treaty Abuse, PAR, Protect American Rights and Resources, ERPI, Equal Rights for Everybody. You'd go to these landings and about 95% of them were drunk, so it was a pretty scary scene. It made a whole wall of blazed orange there. Launch your boats on under a hail of stones and profanity. And that wasn't even the scary part. When you get out on the lake, well, it was scarier yet. Because you'd hear shots in the dark. And you didn't know if they were shooting at you and trying to scare you or if they were trying to kill you. You knew that they were drunk. So it was a pretty scary time at that time. So anyway, the federal government finally got involved in some of those cases. These local county governments wouldn't do anything. And so we knew that if we didn't go out and exercise those rights, that we'd lose them anyway. And so that's a part of our recent history. So now our treaty rights are being threatened once again by the extractive industries. Mainly these mining companies. If you take a look at the map of Lake Superior, I looked at a map, and there are little red dots on the map that showed where you have all these mines that are already in operation or proposed mines. And so these mines are making moonscapes out of those territories. And so right over here in the Bad River watershed now, we're really fighting this one. The Bad River watershed lies well within the ceded territories, and we do have the right to hunt, to fish, and gather. But if they poison the water, if they poison the air, if they poison Mother Earth, if the plants, the animals, the fish, the deer, whatever, no longer good to eat, then they're violating our treaties. But we got news for them. We're not going to let it happen. Amigot, mío.
Thank you, Jodan. As you can see, we're having some technical difficulties, but as Indian people, we just roll with it. So, our next speaker is going to be, Melinda, are we doing Carol? Yeah, unfortunately, we were slated to have one of our tribal members, an historian, Carol Robick, present, but unfortunately, she's not feeling too well. She's under the weather, so she's at home resting. But at this time, we'd like to call up Carol Brown, tribal member, attorney, great community member. She's going to give a little history on the legal side of Strawberry Island and how that played into where we're at right now. Carol, thank you.
I'm going to stand under here because I think you can hear me better. Good morning. My name is Carol Brown. I am a tribal member. Hi, Bob. My traditional name is ode'imini, and I've been an attorney for about 21 years. I started working for the tribe 2 years out of law school in 1995. So the beginning of my legal career, primarily with tribal law, began at the cusp of when the Strawberry Island case began, and that was in 1995. So what I'm going to do is just give you a bird's eye view of my experience through the legal process without getting mired down into all the boring procedural events. But because this was such a momentous event and very, very controversial issue, made the legal process very, very interesting and very rewarding at the end, because as you'll see, the decision, even though it wasn't what we wanted, resulted in a very, very momentous landmark case for Wisconsin. So, okay, is that better? Yes. Okay. Well, hopefully they'll start all over again. Okay, so they say that no matter how many times you talk in front of people, your toughest crowd is going to be at home. So that's why I have my cheat sheet here. And I apologize if I stumble. So anyway, as I said, the case began for me and for the tribe in 1995. I was 2 years out of law school, still had the deer in the headlight look, but I was very privileged and honored to represent the tribe on many matters, and it came to light that I was going to get involved in a very long and drawn-out process in this case. It began with a lady that I'm so sorry wasn't able to speak this morning, but Pat Robick, a very, very busy flurry of activity, bundle of energy, came up to me and she told me that a building permit was applied for on Strawberry Island. Got to do something. What can we do? Can you help? And at that time, I didn't realize that Strawberry Island was not part of our land. I thought it was either property of the tribe, or I thought it belonged to an allotee, which of course it had until 1910. But it had actually been sold in 1910 by the parents of a 5-year-old tribal member to a non-member. So I didn't realize at the time that that was the case until she had told me that we have a situation here where we have a very important piece of our history that is threatened for development. So the building permit contemplated first a single-family dwelling, and then it contemplated sort of a condominium project. So it was very, very aggressive approach to what I call a pretty serious development on the island. So what I think started this very, very interesting chain of events started with the outcry that the building permit had had created. So you have a person 2 years out of law school, and you're faced with a situation that I learned about in law school that had to do with jurisdiction. So you have a piece of property that was very important to us, but smack dab in the middle of the reservation where the tribe exercises very, very strong jurisdiction on a lot of other matters. But we're in a PL 280 state, which means that the state has concurrent jurisdiction over activities, criminal and civil, depending on the situation. It makes it harder when it's a non-Indian parcel and it's a non-Indian owner. So that was a challenge in and of itself. And secondly, on top of that challenge, was a Supreme Court case which even further limited our possibilities of exercising jurisdiction by saying that you had to go.
We were hoping that, yeah.
Now we brought the big boys in.
So, the U.S. Supreme Court even limited jurisdiction possibilities even more. So the answer to trying to figure out how we could stop the development was not an easy answer. So I thought, well, there's got to be some state law that's going to help us because it's a very important parcel. Test. So then my next task was to look at the state law to see whether there were any avenues there. And unfortunately, we had not much to go on. There's the State Historic Preservation Act, but that didn't apply in this situation. That is not a complete bar to development. It's a lot of property rights situations that were raised in this situation. And then there's the Burial Sites Preservation Act. Well, I thought, well, maybe that might help because oral history has told us that there are many, many fallen warriors that are on the island, and so that would make development very difficult. However, the problem with that is, in order to invoke that statute, you have to go onto the island and prove that those burials existed. And no one wanted that to happen either. That island has always been under protection, and there was no way that we were going to recommend that that occurred. So there was a very, very difficult legal situation that was on the plate before the council at the time. So now I'm going to step out of the legal kitchen and describe the events that were going on concurrently. So when the building permit was issued or was applied for, that became public knowledge, and there was a huge outcry, obviously, and that created this huge outswell of grassroots efforts to help the tribe. There were environmentalists, there were tribal activists, there were concerned community members. Everyone wanted to do something to try to make sure that this development doesn't happen. Well, as you know, in grassroots efforts, there are a lot of situations that can arise that can become unmanageable. And understandably, there were ideas like, there was armed confrontations, there were human chains that were going to form around the lake so that there was not going to be any access. And my mom's not here right now, but she's 84, and she said, I'll be one of those people that will stand and join hands with everyone. There's not going to be any access. So there was a lot of things that were happening outside the legal arena, which really required some management. Hugs.
Just give it a few seconds.
Take a break. Anybody have a raffle ticket? Okay. Oh, perfect.
Just time your breath when you take a breath, right when it cuts out.
Okay. Okay, Mom, that's okay. So there was efforts that really required some management coordination with the legal strategy. You don't want to have those two activities running not together. And so there was a lot of work that the tribal council and I had to do in order to make sure that everyone was on the right page and everyone was proceeding in an orderly manner. Numerous newspaper articles were written. There was interviews with the newspaper. There was arguing and all kinds of informal confrontations and discussions that were going on throughout this whole process. Well, the best thing that we could do at the time, because we did not want to set bad precedent, because there's not a lot of avenues for the tribe in a situation where there's no ownership and it's a PL 280 state. So the option was to follow the administrative process. And that meant, waiting our way through the county process. So the building permit process allows for public testimony to make sure that whatever activity is being proposed is consistent with the law and in the best interest of the public. So that's what we did. We went through the meetings that the Vilas County Zoning Committee held. Tribal members presented testimony. We also wanted to build a record, so we held our own public hearing. We held it, I think it was in the bingo hall, was it? And so we invited everyone who had an interest and opinion about the island, didn't matter if you're a tribal member or not, to please come forward, provide testimony so that we could build a record. And so we did that along with following the administrative process. Well, the building permit was denied, and of course that didn't make the owner very happy. He was defending probably what he viewed as a family legacy. He had that land since 1910, and he hadn't done anything with it. It's in a beautiful area. Why not capitalize on that? So he was not happy. So the next step was to appeal that decision to the Board of Appeals, which is the next step in the administrative process. That set off another round of meetings. Tribal members came together. The tribe went to the hearing, presented testimony. That decision affirmed the lower decision. The building permit is denied. And the reason was, it's in the best interest of the public to maintain the integrity of the island as it is, based on all the information, the oral history that was presented, and the historical information. The historical information that dates back to 500 BC. So we were successful on that level, but of course the judicial process as it is doesn't end there. After that, the administrative process is exhausted, then you get to go to the state court level. So of course we expected what did happen, and the owner appealed that decision to the state court. And at that time it was in Vilas County Court. Judge Kinney, who was a judge in Oneida County, had to take over because Judge Moore recused himself, and so we had an Oneida County judge presiding over the case. Luck would have it that he at that time was more inclined to settle disputes. So he suggested that we try to settle the case and see whether we can come to some middle ground on the issue. So the tribal council at the time authorized Tom to represent the tribe and to join Wally Mills and the judge in chambers to talk this through to see whether anything could be resolved. I don't know if you remember that, Tom, but I can't disclose the details of those discussions, but I have to tell you it was very, very interesting. For those of you who don't know Walter Mills, the original owner, he was probably in his 80s at that time, very slight gentleman, very dignified looking, and had a very quick wit. So I had only met him a couple of times, so we met in the judge's chambers, hoping that we would be able to come to some kind of middle ground. We had our niceties. How are you? This is a great day. Well, it didn't take a rocket scientist to realize that after a couple of minutes into the discussion that we weren't going to go anywhere. We had Tom, who had a very tough job, coming to the table trying to reach a middle ground where we didn't think there was a middle ground to be had. This was our land to begin with. We shouldn't have to buy it. It should just give it to us. There's no middle ground. And that was a very, very strong outcry by the tribal members as well. So he had that message, and that's how he came to the table. And it's a difficult position. And then there's Wally Mills, who of course he's got his family legacy to defend, and it's it's 26 acres of property that they validly purchased. Well, after a couple of exchanges of this is what we like and this is what we want, I did nothing but turn and look at the judge once, and all of a sudden, there is Walter Mills, who's this tall. There's Tom that's this tall, and they were about this far apart from each other, and they weren't complimenting each other on their shirts. It was very clear that there was no middle ground, and the judge, I don't know if you know Judge Kinney, but at that time he had not a lot of hair, but what he did have stood straight up on his head. His eyebrows went way back, and he didn't know what to do. This was a situation that was clearly not going to be settled. So settlement discussions were over, obviously. Decision was rendered, and the decision was, of course, rendered on our behalf. Well, that didn't end the story, because at the same time, the Mills family very, very determined, so they went and applied for more building permits. So that ended up in another round of litigation, procedures, injunctions, motions. It's a flurry of activity. So after it got past that level, then the tribe started to think about whether or not we should sit down and talk about purchasing this island, because we're not going anywhere. It's just not going to get resolved the way it is, and court proceedings can last forever. So the idea was born from a tribal council meeting. Why don't we go to formal mediation? Maybe this will help. We'll get the whole tribal council together, we'll get the Mills family together, and we'll proceed before a formal mediator, and that way it'll be more coordinated and more organized. So that was agreed to. We all went to Green Bay, and we had the privilege actually of mediating before former Judge Bob Perrins, who was the former, or those of you who are Packer fans, he was the former CEO and president of the Green Bay Packers, I think from 82 to 88, something like that. He came to the table with 100% clean record, so he was a little nervous, thinking that we're going to be the Casey at the bat that knocks it out of the park, and he's not going to have he's not going to have a clean 100% success rate. So we attended mediation. I don't remember if it was a day or two. I can't remember, 2 days. We finally ended up with some agreement and a price to purchase, but it was subject on membership approval. So the council came back, and we had a referendum, and the referendum rejected the offer. And so we're back to square one again. Well, that didn't make the owner happy, so he took that issue, the fact that we had a vote, and also the denial of the second building permit, and went to the Wisconsin Court of Appeals level. So we not only had an issue of whether or not the court was going to grant or approve the decision that was made by the Board of Adjustment at the county level, we also had the issue of a challenge to the tribe on our decision that we made based on our constitution to hold a referendum vote to have the people vote on the question. So there were two issues that were very critical. So had briefing. We didn't have oral argument, but we pushed on our sovereignty, and we pushed on the importance of the island. And finally, in 2003, after 8 years of prolonged litigation and mediation and settlement discussions and public hearings and protests and things like that, the decision of the Court of Appeals finally came down, and they decided that indeed the Vilas County did make a right decision. They did base a decision on valid information that was presented to them, that the island in its current state is best and practical uses for preservation. But secondly, which was very, very cool, is that the court also affirmed tribal sovereignty. They declared a setback from taking any action in scrutinizing a tribe's decision on whether it ought to, what it needs to do under its own constitution. So those are two really good decisions that came out of that case, and that was in 2003. So that's it in a nutshell. I think the greatest reflection, though, that I have on this case is that in any government, you're going to have political division. You're going to have families against families. It's a natural fallout of living in a small community. But in this situation, everyone came together. It was inspiring. It was great to see everyone join efforts, and it didn't matter what role they played. Everyone was very, very committed to make sure that this thing got done. Yes, it took 8 years, but it was definitely inspiring to me to see how much we can accomplish when we all work together toward one goal. So with that, I'm going to conclude. Thank you so much for inviting me. It means so much to me to be here. It's a very, very meaningful event for me as well, and I just want to wish everyone congratulations and chimiwech.
Thank you, Carol. I just want to make a quick announcement. Unfortunately, as we know, we're having some technical difficulties. It's either the cord or the generator. We're not sure which one, so we're trying to deal with that situation right now. We're actually going to try another PA. But in the meantime, we're just going to roll with it. I have to ask a question: are there any Midwongton people in the house, in the crowd? Okay. At this time, we're going to introduce one of the people, the individual that put a lot of her heart and soul into bringing Strawberry Island back to the tribe. She worked numerous hours, years on it, and poured her heart into her work. At this time, I'd like to introduce Zoya Mayo, the director of our land management department here on the reservation. Zoya? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you might get a little bit in, but.
I have a cheat sheet too, so. Right, okay. Good morning to you all. A special welcome to our tribal elders, tribal president, tribal council, visitors, and all in attendance on this beautiful, glorious day. Today we celebrate a truly historic moment of welcoming back home to me what I view as the heart of our homeland, Strawberry Island. This momentous occasion has been 104 years in the making, and I am truly humbled and honored to be a witness and a part of this historic moment. As a young girl and a Lac-du-Flambeau tribal member, I remember my elder aunt, Maxine Thompson Dakota, the eldest daughter in her family, my second mom, telling me stories of the old ways in the Indian village and the stories of our beautiful island in Medicine Rock. I listened in awe and remember her words to this day of the island being precious and always sacred to our people. Unfortunately, our island left tribal ownership 104 years ago and is now finally returning home back to the people today where it belongs. This long, arduous undertaking took place over 40 years when our tribe began negotiations to turn the island back to its rightful owners, the Lac-du-Flambeau Band of Lake Superior Chippewa Indians. Throughout the years, there have been numerous lengthy and costly legal battles to protect the island that is so sacred to our people. At this time, I would like to recognize some of those people involved in that process, many of whom have just spoken. Unfortunately, Pat Harabic couldn't be here. I'd like to recognize her. Precious elder that I have always admired throughout the years. I'd like to recognize Carol Brown, the attorney instrumental in fighting our legal battles to keep the island from development. I would like to recognize past land management staff, Cappy, and current land management staff, Jesse Peterson and Josh Brown. I would like to recognize all past tribal councils and our current tribal council. I'd like to recognize our president, Tom Malson, and our council members here present today for taking the historic step of committing our limited financial resources to this great accomplishment for the purchase of our island back to the people. The island is symbolic of all of our fee lands on our reservation. I have likened them to an adopted child who finally gets to come back home to her family. Throughout the years, several decades, our tribe has purchased over 3,200 acres of fee land within the borders of our reservation. This has been a collaborative effort of the past and current councils at the expense of considerable resources, and most importantly, it has been the effort of the will of the people, the Lac du Flambeau Band, past generations, current generations, and for the future of our children of tomorrow. Purchasing our lands back is better than having money in the bank to me. To me, it's more valuable. It provides our tribe with hunting and gathering lands, opportunity for economic development, and most importantly, as in this case, the return of one of our most precious properties and sacred properties, Strawberry Island. It is truly a historic and most beautiful day for this celebration to take place. To arrive here and see the people, the beauty of our lands, the beauty of our waters, and the most precious sign of a migizi flying over us and sitting up there and watching over us. That is truly inspiring. I thank all of you for my 10 years as Director of Land Management for our tribe. It's ironic that this is probably going to be my last job, and it's ironic that my first job was in realty. And if Mike Allen remembers that, I used to work with him when he was a realty natural resource coordinator, and I was his assistant, and that was my first position. So to me, this job has been the best job of my life, and the accomplishment of what we are doing here today, the return of our historic, our precious, our sacred island back to our people, is truly one of the most greatest accomplishments that I've ever had. So I thank you all for that, and I thank you for being able to serve my people through these years. So in closing, I'd like to ask President Tom Malson to come back up. I'd like to ask Melinda to come back up, any elders that are present, if they'd like to come up, and any council members that would like to come up. And I would like to present the official recorded deed for the return of our island back to our people. This is document number 518670, warranty deed. The deed made between Mill Strawberry Island Development Company, LLC, a Colorado limited liability company, and the Lac du Flambeau Band of Lake Superior Chippewa Indians of Lac du Flambeau, Wisconsin, for the return of our most precious and sacred 26-acre island, Strawberry Island, back to the people of the Lac du Flambeau Band of Lake Superior Chippewa Indians.
Once again, be good. Like I said, it's just sitting there listening to the speakers. Everybody's doing a good job. I mean, I asked, do we have any of our brothers that we sort of put the run on here some years ago? And I guess, do we have any Sioux people out there? Come on up and speak for your people. We asked that. We asked to come and say a few words, because that's really what it was all about. Not to fight so much, but we need people to start to stand together and ask these people to do that. I want to say to Zoya, good job. Got a lot of work ahead of you yet. We got a lot of land that they took from us. They stole from us. And if there's any white people out there that want to, give your land back to us, I'm a good beggar. We'll let you live your tax-free the rest of your life. You know, so we want our land back. That's really what we're all about. I don't know who this young lady is. Celeste. You know, Nick Hawkins' granddaughter. And I believe you're from what part of the Sioux Nation? Okay, you want to say something?
If your mic cuts out, it's going to happen.
I didn't expect to say anything. I just came to watch and hear all about our Strawberry Islands. I know that it's in the past as we had, you know, the Sioux got, you know, kind of pushed off. But I think coming back and then realizing that this is such a great thing to happen for us as Ojibwe, because I'm not just Sioux, I'm also Ojibwe. So I'm a mixture of both. And I think that shows how well our people are now getting along, are mixing together. And from my people, I always say, you know, thank you, and I appreciate everything that we've been through and what we have now. Miigwech.
Thank you. Somebody want to say something? Okay. Come on. You have to get really happy.
She got to all, and I'm so honored to be here today to be involved in this celebration of restoration. And I thank Creator God for all that He's done for us. Every day is a gift, and that gift is our life as we live in unity for all people. Thank you, Miigwech.
I guess anybody else out there want to say something? Come on up. I want to say miigwech on behalf of government again, on behalf of Waswaganin. This is a good day, and we won't forget this one. Miigwech again.
Thank you, President Malson. Thank you, elders. At this time, we're going to ask that any guests, if we have any visiting dignitaries, community members. I know we have some of our relatives from Mole Lake here. We also have some of our relatives from Bad River. I think Joe Dan and his son had to leave. But are they still here? Anybody that wants to say a few words can come up. You're welcome to come up and speak. I know for me, like I said earlier, this is a very momentous day. It's incredible to see Strawberry Island back in the graces of the tribe. I remember back in the late 80s and early 90s, not only like Joe Dan spoke about treaty rights and the treaty struggles, but also the struggle for Strawberry Island. I remember, you know, having ceremonies right here, water ceremonies. I recall being at the campground, just about a couple clicks down the road here, going to ceremonies, being a part of a movement to try and preserve the island and the history that is contained there. So anybody that feels a urge to come up and speak, we're going to turn this over as an open mic right now. I see Senator Zhao coming up.
Bonjour.
Bonjour.
To our elders, President Malson, leaders of the council, distinguished members of the Lac du Flambeau tribe, to the guests, visitors from far beyond. I live in Poplar, Wisconsin, where my wife and I have resided for over 30 years. But to me, Lac du Flambeau is home. My mother and father, whom many of you may know, my mother still lives in Lac du Flambeau, and she never hesitates to tell people that she lives not in Lac du Flambeau, but on the Lac du Flambeau Indian Reservation. She loves the people who have the gift of loving others and loving life. And it is such a special occasion to be here today to celebrate this renewal. When Chief Seattle spoke about all things being sacred on this land, he spoke of this place. He talked about the shining pine needles, the shimmering waters, the blue skies, the places where our ancestors walked and lived. What you're doing today is honoring them. It is a bridge between a very proud past and a prideful and promising future. I'm so pleased that there are so many young people here today, because these are lessons to be shared with young people, that the traditions, the culture, the history, the richness of the Native American people must be preserved, must live on, and that the fight to assure that you will be treated with decency and respect for who you are, that fight continues to go on. So many difficult lessons were learned during the treaty rights, and you prevailed. Tribal history is one of many struggles. Those struggles will continue, but what you can all feel so proud of is that you have the persistence, you have the legal authority, you have the moral authority, you have right on your side, and when you feel as though you're right, you continue to work to secure justice for all and for the future. Everything is good about what you're celebrating today. Many struggles remain, many challenges remain. I'm so proud, I must say, Cappy, who's a dear friend of mine, mother's, Jean Brown, Buddy, and Carol Brown, excuse me. Buddy and Jean's daughter went on to school, came back to this reservation, and gave back to this reservation so that we could celebrate together today. This is about a unity of who we are and what we stand for and everything that is good and right. I couldn't be prouder than to be from here, to be with you, and to know for these young people that there is a long and promising future for this reservation, for the people who will live here, and future generations. Congratulations.
Thank you, Senator Joe. Like I said before, open mic, feel free to come up. I want to acknowledge we have some of our administration from the Lac du Flambeau Public School here. I see Ms. Rawanowitz. I see Mr. Grams, Mr. Omet. I also see, is that, who's that over there? You guys want to come up and say a few words? Mr. Omet, Mr. Grams?
Oh, come on up here.
Bonjour. I'm very proud to be here today as District Administrator for Lac du Flambeau School District. Mr. Joki just did a wonderful job. I don't know how to follow the words that you just shared and the words of the previous speakers. But I do know that this is a very special day, a historic moment in Lac du Flambeau history. And as the District Administrator for our school, our elementary school, you can be sure that this will be taught in our school, and it'll be a shining example for the rest of the state, for the rest of the nation. As the history of Lac du Flambeau and many of the important events are highlighted from this event today. And again, it's great to see everybody. There's a movement in the community and in the school to really make sure that people in the community have a chance to learn about the history of what Lac du Flambeau is all about the treaty rights, about Act 31, about all those important things. It's a very proud community. It's a community that's on the move. It's a community that's rising. And just like our school, we will make sure that we're supporting everything that we can. And it really was great to see or hear all of the people who were sharing their experiences, the fight to try to get this island back, the legal struggles, and the history of that. And I look forward to invite people from the community here who have been so involved in this to be part of our school and to come in and help our staff to teach exactly what happened in the history of Lac du Flambeau and in the state of Wisconsin. So we have our commitment to make sure that this history lives on. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Omet. Mr. Omet brings up an important point, and I would like to acknowledge this, is that the Lac du Flambeau School has made a tremendous amount of effort to engage the community, engage the tribal government, and engage families here on the reservation. It's a unique situation because the school is a public school on an Indian reservation. So that's a unique relationship. And they don't necessarily have to, by any means, incorporate the culture and the history as much as they do. So I want to give them a big round of applause, the Lac du Flambeau School. Tremendous amount of work is being done, and my heart really feels it. I feel good about what's happening at the school. So I see Mrs. Hawkins here. Did you want to come up? I know she's been a great supporter of the Strawberry Island movement, and she runs Waswaganing out here on Highway 47, and great community member, Miss Charlotte Hawkins.
Bonjour. You see, I turned my shirt around because I love the design, and I'm so glad and proud to wear it. So I want you all to see how beautiful this t-shirt is with the floral design of the Ojibwe people. Ojawashko, Gijiguk, Minawagi, Wita, Kamaguk, Indigenous cause, Waswaganing and Dunjaba, Wabajeshi and Dodim, Nindinaway, Maganadug. I really am so happy to see all of the people collected here today. On behalf of my late husband, Nick Hawkins, I'm sure that he is smiling from the spirit world down on us today. I just wish he could have been here. There's so many momentous and monumental things going on right now that he was a part of. And this is on.
Go ahead, just go ahead.
Keep going? Well, anyway, maybe he took the sound away. I always think of him. I've just come from Waswaganing, where we're giving tours today, and I had to come and be part of this monumental celebration. And along with all of you, I was just saddened so much when they came up with the story of how the Mills family wanted to gouge us for millions and millions of dollars for something that they stole. And I feel that that story has got to get out, that a lot of our people here have lost their lands to over half of the reservation is non-Indian owned because of something like that. And I would like to say that they have to acknowledge their part in the stealing of the land. And I hope that all of the children will start to feel their Indian culture and their Indian heritage so that they can go on to Lakeland Union High School and feel proud of themselves. Instead of getting angry, they should be stepping up and saying, we have a culture, we have a language, and it means something to us. So on behalf of my late husband and myself, I hope that the rest of the day goes really well. Enjoy the food and the song, and come and see us at Weswagening and send all your friends.
Hey.
Leland, would you like to say a few words? No? I want to acknowledge at this time some of the people that put today's event together so that we could all be here and celebrate this day. Teresa Mitchell, Director of the George W. Brown Museum and Cultural Center. Teresa, thank you for the work you did in putting this together. Also, I'd like to acknowledge Melinda Young, our Tribal Historic Preservation Officer, who basically has dedicated her entire life to preserving the culture and making sure that buildings and roads and things like that aren't violating our ancestors or our buried culture. Also Sarah Schumann, who also works with Melinda in the Tribal Historic Preservation Office. I'd like to thank her for the work she's done today. Terry Malusian, who also works in the office. Thank you. At this time, the mic is open. Come on up. Thank you.
Bonjour. Good morning. I'm Janet Bewley. I have the privilege of representing you in the State Assembly. But I hope that I can address you this morning asking first that the elders here help me say what is in my heart, because I'm very grateful for what I am learning today from all of you, because what I am learning is that everything that has happened before has to begin with today. Everything that happened starting well before my ancestors arrived, you began. And then when we came, some bad things happened. And in 1905, something terrible happened. But the most important thing that I learned is that you never, ever, ever give up. You never, ever forget. And you always today do what is asked of you because of yesterday. Because if you don't, then tomorrow can't happen. And I learned that from what has happened today. I learned that from you. And I take courage in that, because I know that there are many, many things that we are fighting today that may not be solved tomorrow. But I know that because of you, I will continue those fights with you. I will never, ever, ever give up because of you. And I will always learn and take pride from the lessons that I learned from you. And I'm grateful for the elders that are here that have done it before, for the young people that may be hearing it for the first time that will do it again tomorrow, and that we will all move forward knowing that justice must be done, and that your people must prevail in this beautiful, beautiful land. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you can do that. I want to apologize. First, thank you, Ms. Dooley. I want to apologize for not. I recognized your face. I ate breakfast with Ms. Bewley down in Madison a few months ago, and my dear friend Brian Jackson, who's not here today, he's in the field in Milwaukee and other places working. He told Janet that I ironed my socks.
Don't tell that story. Don't tell that story. You're going to tell it anyway, I know.
Okay, so here's what happened. Okay, so anybody that knows me knows I like to dress up a little bit, and I take a lot of I get, harangued for that. People, say things to me and kind of tease me. And it's not because I'm trying to be fancy or better than anybody. It's because people like my stature or my looks, I don't know what it is, people sometimes don't take me seriously. So I feel like if I put on a suit coat and maybe a tie, they'll take me serious. So anyway, we were at the Wisconsin Indian Education Association event. It was actually State of the Tribes Week in Madison, and I know Miss Rowanowitz was there, and a lot of people from our reservation were there. And what happened was I was a little bit late for breakfast, and I sat down at the table with Janet and Brian, and I think President Molson was there, and maybe Councilman Big John and some other ones. And I had my plate and I sat down, and Brian remarks, "Where were you? Ironing your socks?" And I just chuckled and I kind of brushed it off. And Janet says,
Just stop. Just
Yeah.
stop right now.
she said something to the effect of, "Oh, I never thought of that," or it was something like that. She took it seriously as the point. And I was a little embarrassed, turned a little red. I'm red to begin with, but I turned a little bit redder. And anyway, so yeah, my apologies, Miss Bewley, and thank you for being here. I appreciate it. It means a lot. Open mic. Elisa, you want to come up and, why don't you come up and make this announcement? Elisa Parmalee.
Hi, my name is Elisa Parmalee. My Indian name is Shawanudinukwe. I'm a tribal descendant. My mom was a tribal member here. But I just wanted to tell you guys that tonight there is going to be a candidate education forum at the Senior Center in the Wellness Center. And the two coalitions, the Minnoka Magazine Coalition and the Positive Alternatives Coalition, are hosting candidates so that we can educate the candidates about alcohol policy and other substance abuse related issues. And so far we have only one candidate who for sure is going to be there, and that's going to be Janet Bewley, who's running for Senate. And there's a possibility that Beth Meyer may come, and also possibly Graham Garfield, who are running for Assembly. And if I can just take 1 second and just say that it's really important this year for Senate and Assembly that we get Democrats elected because of the threat of the mining and the Pinocchio Hills, and also the pipeline that they want to run from Wisconsin. So we really need to have people that are going to be watching out for our natural resources. And Janet Bewley is somebody who really cares about the natural resources. So come tonight and we can educate Janet on alcohol abuse, how the coalitions feel about alcohol abuse. Thanks.
We're going to take a brief, maybe 3 or 4 or 5 minute break here. I want to see if we can hook up another speaker, a PA system that is solid. But before we do that, I have a friend that I've known for a number of years. He's a tribal member here. He's a community member. He's an advocate for young people, and I've worked with him at school. And he's just a really great person. I want to introduce Leland King. He wants to say a few words.
Hello, I am Leland, and I am just happy to be here today.
How happy
Okay, we're just going to take a quick break. Lunch is scheduled for noon, I believe. Open mic until then. 5 minutes, thanks.
Because of this guy.
Well, she's now in was the best place for her. I could see it coming. He was flying. Feeling good about herself. We were going, and I appreciate you asking that. Interesting.
Testing 1, 2, testing. Testing 1, 2, testing 1, 2. Testing 1, 2. Mic check 1, 2. Check, check.
It's such a special
Yeah, no, one of them, I think one time.
Good for you. Hard
I don't know, I didn't know that. I lived somewhere else where it was warm.
But it doesn't matter what you call it. It's how you inspire children. How do you bring the best out of them?
Yeah, right.
I'd like to talking to kids about the last 2 years.
I mean, I had to set up.
So you take it a year? I'd be glad to. I'd serve during that There's a terrible Mississippi, Wisconsin burning. It's still tall. So I'll be in touch with you back.
What do you want to do? What?
It's okay.
What do you want to do? What do you want to do? What's one? I did. It's fun. It has 23 hours left. Wow. I still on camera. I'm not filming him. Get out the way, man. I'm the cameraman. Here, get up. Riley, get up. Bingo. Turn. Get out the turn. Look at Miriam.
What's that?
The camera went. You're the cameraman. Okay.
Testing 1, 2, testing.
Look at my eye on you. Ah, no, I didn't get him. Only see there. Stop, this is real play. They're gonna play. Right there, I'm trying to get right. No. Right there. No, that's not exactly. Right there. It's right there. Stop it. That's not, it's right here. Oh, right there.
You know, I just pulled up here. It's Ricky, my daughter.
I see a little boy in the camera.
Lenny says to turn it up.
Oh, okay.
Up.
I mean, not that.
If I can have your attention, please. We have some entertainment planned for today, this afternoon. They're in the process of doing their sound check right now. That's you'll be hearing from Paco, Lenny, and friends, and also tribal member Bobby Bullitt will be performing. And Kelly Jackson, national performing artist, is headlining. Big lineup this afternoon. Big lineup. I'm going to ask our... Check, 1, 2, 3. Check. I've been reminded by Lenny from Paco and Lenny and Friends that our one of our acts this afternoon, Mr. Bobby Bullitt, is also a national recording artist who has a number of CDs. Very talented musician and artist. At this time, I'd like to ask one of our council people to say a few words. Mr. Brooks, Big John.
Bonjour, bonjour. Good to see all these smiling faces here today. I guess thinking here and hearing a lot of the good words I've heard here today. Really kind of thinking back in history here. I live on Flambeau Lake. I live right across the way here. I can see my dock and my kids swimming raft. And every day I get to wake up and look out the window and get to look at Strawberry Island each and every morning. And I get to think about a long time ago, you know, although today is a great day, let's not forget, back in 1887, they had this thing called the Dawes Allotment Act. And that Dawes Allotment Act, what it did is it allowed individual head of households, Indians, to claim up to 160 acres of land. So no relative of mine by the name of Sam Whitefeather was very happy this day that he was claimed Strawberry Island as his home, his land that he was able to claim. Sam Whitefeather, his name was.
Check 1, 2, check 1, 2.
A lot of Indians were happy that day as they laid claims to land around here, different parts of the country. And I think about old Sam Whitefeather, you know, how not too long after he laid claim to Strawberry Island, that island was taken away from him. Because in the grand scheme of things, he wasn't able to pay the taxes on it. And Indians all across the country were in that same boat. The federal government knew that these Indians had no zunia, no money to pay for the taxes on these lands, and that land would revert back to the federal government. So, you know, I sit here today thinking about that and thinking about how happy my relative was, and then a little while later that land was taken back from him. Went to the Mills family after that, and we've had a struggle to get it back. And you know, today we celebrate the end of that struggle because that land is back in our hands today. So today is a good day today. But let's not forget what had happened in history. Let our kids remember, you know, some of the things that happened and how this land was continuously being threatened. You know, we don't stand up and fight and we'll lose out. At one point in time, this land was gonna, as Carol was talking there, was offered to the tribe for I think about $1.5 million. And you know, we were trying to run up some monies to do it back in the day, and you know, we kind of held off a little bit. The Mills family did everything in their power to increase the property value. They subdivided that land and threatened that they would put homes out there. And we sat here and patiently kind of watched every move they made. We went to the tax assessors and seen that the land was not valued at $1.5 million, and we stopped that referendum. And we're glad we did, you know. But today, you know, I think about that Sam Whitefeather. Share that with your kids, because today is a ceremony, and you know, for getting our island back. But our kids need to know the truth, and they need to know what that Dawes Allotment Act did. Let's look back to the history of Strawberry Island, and let's remember. Let's not forget. Miigwech.
Thank you, Mr. Big John. I'm going to ask one of our elders, a tribal elder, who's also a historian, an artist, knowledgeable woman, grandmother, mother, to come on up and say a few words. We're going to be eating lunch soon. And like I said, there's going to be an open mic, but at this time I want to introduce Mildred Tinker Schumann, also known as Eagle Woman. And she's going to say a few words for us.
Bonjour and Danaway Magaman. Migizi Quay and Indigenous cause, Todan Migizi, Waswagning and Dunjiba. Chimigwich for this beautiful day to get you money to the creator of all living that give us this life, the sacred breath of life that we have. And I live on the other side of this island over there. And when I heard when that guy wanted to build a condominium out there, it was like, what? So, a lot of prayers were said, and a lot of pipe ceremonies that our tribe has done, and we're good to go here now. It's a great day of celebration. And I want to thank all our council members and all the people that have put this together, and our younger generations that we think about that are coming behind us, that we need to prepare the way for them, so it's good that way. So I work with the Culture Committee and also with the Living Arts for the Indian Bowl. So I got tickets over there if anybody wants to buy a ticket for Nimida on the 28th of this month, that we're having a fundraising for our new Indian Bowl. So a lot of good things happening in our community, so we need to support that. Each one of us that can do that, well, it's only $50 so per ticket. And it includes meal and entertainment. So anyway, I want to thank everybody, and I also want to do something here from our relative here, Brandon. I told him he looked like my brother Frankie years ago. I showed him a picture, and he was flabbergasted that he looked like my brother. So. Anyway, I want to present them with this Miigwan today, so come on up here. And good day. See me what you want to do. Talking on Miigwan.
Owajigayash Nindigenous.
Owajigayash Nindigenous.
Literally means dream floating on the wind.
Owajigay. Miigwich, Owajigay Mishkumis. Hi Mama, and then away Mother, Chimiwich. To you, I present this for all that you do for our relatives, for our community, and I want you to continue on it, to have a good life, so for your children.
Okay, wasn't expecting that. Caught me off guard. Miigwich, like I said, Tinker is a traditionalist. She holds a lot of knowledge, and she counsels many people, gives strength and guidance to many of our community members. So Miigwich, for that great honor. Paco, are you guys ready? No? I mentioned before we have some relatives here from Mole Lake. And, you know, I'm a little familiar with the Battle of Mole Lake. And I know that there was a major battle fought between the Sioux people and our Ojibwe people down in that area in Mole Lake. And as President Molson said before, and a few others, that this land that we inhabit now wasn't always ours. It was another people resided here, and it's kind of the way of the world. It's the way of mankind, is to always promote your people and progress your community. And looking back, you know, 300, 400, 500 years, that's all our ancestors were doing, was trying to not so much wage a war, I would say, but in retrospect, I think they were just trying to secure a future for all these little people you see running around here. I can't even fathom the thought of what they were thinking when they would go out and whether it's harvest wild rice or spearing or hunting or warfare to ensure that those areas were secure for our sustenance. So the land in Strawberry Island holds a significance in that respect, that there was a major battle fought right here. I mean, if you can look out there, if you can imagine canoes, birch bark canoes, and the Sioux people, Dakota used dugouts. They would fall big trees and burn them or scrape them out. And so their method of, our mode of transport was a little heavier, was a little less stealth than a birch bark canoe. And I think that's what really, in my mind, trying to piece everything together, I think that was what I envision is gave us an advantage over those people at the time, was that we had birch bark canoes which were very lightweight, could be portaged very easily. They could, very stealthily in the water, so it was almost like we had a superior naval force. And if you can just imagine, a battle. And what was told to me was that our warriors had, when our people first got to this area, our scouts and warriors found the Dakota people living here and residing here and using wild rice and all the things that we count as traditional foods today. They were here inhabiting this area, and because of the progress, because of our need to take care of our people and secure a future, they decided to embark on a war party, and they attacked the village living here. And I don't say this, I say this very humbly, I don't say this boastfully. They did this attack, and many souls were lost on both sides. Many of our people perished, many warriors, many women and children died. And what was told to me was that they, meaning our people, our Ojibwe ancestors, drove the villages that they found here, the different encampments, drove them out to Strawberry Island. And the warriors kind of took their last stand out there. And I was told that Sioux medicine, a spiritual leader, a medicine man, very powerful man, I don't even know his name, had made a proclamation when they were making their last stand there, because they knew that their defeat was imminent because of the things I mentioned, our superior naval force and our stealth in war and our ability to move across vast distances quickly provided the edge for us. So I was told that when they were making their last stand, that our Ojibwe people the warriors had surrounded them with their canoes out on the island. And I was told that, and when you heard earlier Boise, Leon Valier, say that what he was told from his grandparents and elders was to stay off that island. And I'll share with you that was what was told to me also from my family, and my elders in my family said that they were always told to stay off the island. And for the reason that this medicine man had I don't want to say it was a curse, but had made a proclamation, and it wasn't necessarily good for our people, the proclamation that was made. And so you can see the importance of the history, that the island remained undisturbed. And in the mid-90s, when it was under threat of development, there were serious concerns that our history would be lost. Our souls rest out there from our people and the Sioux people. There's also, if you go out to the Indian village out here by the dam, by what they call the old village, there are also burial sites out there. I've been told that there's Sioux warriors buried out in right at the mouth of the Bear River, where Flambeau Lake flows into Bear River. So these are things that aren't written in history, at least in our history. They're just passed down as I'm speaking out loud here. from generation to generation. So, you know, if you can imagine, you know, the picture I tried to portray for you happening out there, it's bittersweet, and it's important that our history is preserved in that manner. So I just wanted to say that much, and again, thank you, Tinker, for the eagle feather, the miigwech open mic. We have a few minutes before lunch. Does anyone, maybe some of our elders, I started out talking about the Battle of Mole Lake. I know that the Ojibwe people, our Ojibwe people, fought a pretty fierce battle also against the Sioux people down in that area, in the Crandon area. And wondering if any of you gentlemen or ladies would like to come up and just say a few words. I know we have a few elders from Mole Lake, if you'd like to come up and say a few words.
You guys gotta remember, you gotta speak before you eat, you know that.
That's the price of eating in Flambeau. You have to speak first. I know we have a council member from Mole Lake here, 2 of them. Vice Chair, Mr. Ackley.
You better hear from an elder that was there.
Oh, he said his elder here was there at the battle. Would you like to say a few words, sir? I can bring the mic to you if that's more comfortable. Oh, hey, oh.
Now you get to eat.
Bonjour, bonjour, bonjour. My name is Albert McGeesick and I'm from Mole Lake, and I learned a lot today by listening to a lot of elders, and a lot of stuff I heard today I never heard before. But I was very impressed with Joe with his speech, and I'd like to hear more from him later on in life. But today I was walked down to see my sister and asked her where she was going, and said, we're going to Lac de Flambeau to a little ceremony down there, and I didn't know what it was all about. And so I got on that old bus over there. It rattled just as much as I am. But anyway, I know Paul, I knew him for quite a while. He's part of a relation of mine, what I was been told. But I go back a lot of years myself, and a lot of stuff I never heard about. And today, it makes me feel very good to be here today. I'm just a little bit tired, and I had an car accident, and then I had a stroke, and had a lot of things happen to me in the last 2 years. I'm kind of slowed down quite a bit. My mind is not as good as it used to be. I can remember a lot of good things, but things come back to me today as I remember my grandfather too, as he raised me as a little boy. And I used to spend a lot of time with him. He was a medicine man. His name was Bill McGeesick, my father's dad. And I went to school in St. Paul, Minnesota. I become a barber. So I retired as a barber. And all the guys, white people used to joke about me. But Indian scalping white people, you know. So they found out I started charging and all. So that's why I made my living for the last 25 years. But I spent my time in the United States Air Force. I joined at 18 years old. And I was out in Korea, Vietnam, and all over the Far East. And I spent 6.5 years in the United States Air Force. And sometimes I wish I would have retired that. But I came back to Mole Lake, and that is my habitat. And I enjoy every day there today. And I enjoy around seeing a lot of friends I've seen today, but I can't remember their names. And since I had my stroke, I kind of takes me time to remember things. But But I'm glad I came here today.
Oh, we great.
Miigwech, miigwech,
Miigwech. I don't see any food yet, so I just want to, Mr. McGeejic prompted to jog a little memory when he says he went down to his sister's house and he ended up in Flambeau. That's kind of how Indian people are. We never really know sometimes what's going to happen. You could just stop in at somebody's house and end up in a different state. I'll tell you a quick little story with a story like that of mine. This was about 5 years ago. I went to one of our tribal elders. His name was Michael Chosa, and he was a great orator and historian of our tribe. And I stopped over his house one morning, and he said, "Hey, you want to come to a powwow with us?" And it wasn't a powwow; it was a conference. It was a gaming conference. And he says, "You want to come to this gaming conference with us?" And I said, "Well, I don't know. I kind of, I have a family, and He's like, "Come on, it'll be good for you. Make some connections. You'll network and be able to, have some opportunities." So I go home and I really didn't ask him any details. He said, "Go get ready." Kind of elders, you just kind of do what they tell you. Go get ready. So I went home and threw a bag together. And so he calls me and he says, "Okay, you'll be gone for the weekend." He says, "We'll pick you up about 5 in the morning." So 5 in the morning comes, he pulls up, and actually Richard Jack, he's our chairman of our Constitution Committee and also works on our Charlesburg Gaming Initiative and many other hats he wears in this community. He was in the truck, and one of their nephews was with them. So there's 3 people in a pickup truck. So when they pull up, I'm thinking, all right, we're dropping somebody off at town, and everything is good. So I jump in the back. He says, "Jump in the back." So I jump in the bed. It was an enclosed bed, like the black truck here, like this right over here. And so I jump in the back, and there's like this mattress and blankets and coolers and stuff. I'm like, okay, so they're, trying to cut some corners. So I jump in, and it's, early in the morning, still dark out. So we start going down the highway, and I'm kind of not really paying attention. And I'm looking at trying to see where we're at, and pretty soon, like 15 minutes goes by, and we're not stopping anywhere. So I'm like, okay, what's happening? Okay, maybe he lives in Minocqua, I'm thinking. So, like an hour later in Wausau, we stop, and I'm like, "Can you tell me what's going on?" And he's like, "Yeah, we're going to Oklahoma, and you're riding in the back." And I'm like, "I'm riding in the back?" And I rode in the back of a pickup truck to Oklahoma. But yeah, that's kind of how we are as Indian people. We just go and we just do it. So that kind of jogged my memory. You just never know what's going to happen. And I like to tell that story because it's just so typical Mike. But anybody else like to say a few words? Graham, you want to say a few words? Sue, would you like to say a few words? I know you've done a lot of work in the community and you have some history. I'll bring it over to you. Sue Merchant.
Bonjour. When I heard about this gathering and the beautiful graphic that Piscatane, Greg Johnson did, I noticed the Ojibwe word, first word was ganawendaamin. Anyway, the first 2 letters are G-I, and the ending and the word is min, the first person plural, and thank you to the elders who helped me to learn these things. But that means not that we, just like you and I and a few of us here, work to protect Strawberry Island. It means we all. The first G-I in those words on your t-shirts, that means it's all inclusive for everyone. And 20 years ago, I was privileged to do a few things to help out with Strawberry Island. And I'm so happy to be included in that G-I, first 2 letters, on those beautiful shirts we received today. Miigwech.
Thank you, Sue. I know we have some non-Indian visitors here. If I don't recognize you, forgive me. The mic is open. You're more than welcome to come up and share any thoughts you may have of today, the event, any history you have with Lac du Flambeau. I see our health director, Mr. Randy Samuelson, is in the crowd, a local celebrity. How you doing, Mr. Samuelson? Good to see you. Paco, are you guys ready? So until our food gets here, which is probably going to be momentarily, we'll have Paco and Lenny and friends do a... I see Mr. Valier is motioning to me. Can you hang on a second, Paco? Yeah, absolutely. My elder and somebody I really respect, and I count him as one of my mentors, Mr. Leon Boise Valley, would like to say a few words.
Oh, bonjour. Just wanted to take up a little bit of airtime here today. I was just back sitting with a couple of the elders in the back, having a little conversation. And one of the things that we talked about was, we talked about a lot of memories and so forth. And I guess one of the things that we talked about was recognition, and there's lots of people that are being recognized for their effort here today. And what we were talking about was our good friend and very important person in our community, Zoya. And I was thinking back, Zoya's like a sister to me. I spent hundreds and hundreds of hours with her and her family as we all grew up together, and I have good memories of those times. And we were reflecting upon the reality of how it was, if you want to call it a war chest, was very silently being built up, and a lot of people don't realize. But Zoya had a great vision, and that great vision that she had was she understood the significance of the island, and she understood the significance of the cost that was going to be associated with regaining ownership. And all along the way, we always believed that we owned this island, but as we know in the non-Indian world, that piece of paper being very important, and we understood that there was going to be a cost. And so Zoya had the great vision of assuring that as dialogue went forth with tribal government, and she made a great personal effort in that regard to assure that funding was going to be available. And as we're aware, our tribe has gone through difficult economic times. And during those economic times, it would have been very easy for that pool of money to evaporate. But it was the bravery and the courage of this young lady here that assured that this vision was going to be completed. And so I wanted to share that with you all today, because I know that deeply in my heart how committed she was to that. And I don't think she really is receiving the recognition that she deserves. And I know she's not going to tell you, she's not going to get up and say that about herself today, but I wanted to say that. I wanted to say, Chimigwech to Zoya. And my phone's ringing again. So what we had hoped to do, and unfortunately it hasn't arrived yet, but we do have a gift for Zoya that we're going to be presenting to her today. It hasn't arrived yet, but it will be, and in a very private fashion, we're going to be providing that gift to her on behalf of all community members. And I want you all to let your grandchildren know that someday. They'll be talking about this day today, and I want to make sure that her name continues to be recognized far into the future. So with that much, I'll say, miigwech.
you.
Who's you? Hey, Bob Jackson back there. I want to recognize this guy. He's worked for the Bureau of Indian Affairs for quite a few years. He's retired, and now he's working on important messages to the non-Indian community, tourism. Bob, you want to come up and talk about your book a little bit, or the book that's being presented across Indian country? And he's one of the shakers and movers in that area. Bob has been an advocate for Indian tribes across this country and our natural resources, and the whole Indian country knows him by, Bob Jackson. He worked out of Washington, D.C. Bob, you want to just sort of explain what you do now today, rather than canoeing around trying to catch fish?
Thank you, and congratulations to Lac du Flambeau on this important event. As Tom said, I've been with the Bureau of Indian Affairs for 27 years. I was the regional fish and wildlife biologist of Minneapolis, and helped Lac du Flambeau develop their fish hatchery and many of their natural resource programs. So it's a privilege and an honor to be here today. When I retired in April, NATOW, which is a Native American tourism organization, had begun development of a coffee table book with Discover Media Works on all 11 tribal nations in Wisconsin. And since they thought I had nothing to do since I had retired, they asked me to come on board and help coordinate that. So each tribe will have 10 pages in the book. It'll highlight all the different aspects of tribal culture, tribal government, their natural resources, and this book will be available to all the tribes, and can be used in the casinos, can be for sale, can be used to take out to DC and help spread the word on tribal governments. And our camera crew over here, each book will have a 90-second video, and there will be a QR code in that people can go on their phone and get that 90 seconds. And Lac du Flambeau chose to have this Strawberry Island Festival, and the Battle of Strawberry Island is what they're going to highlight in that 90-second video. And all these 90-second videos then also will be put on the NATOW, or the Native American Tourism Organization website. So that'll be available for people to take a look at and see as well. So we're working hard on getting the chapters done. Flambeau's done now. We've done Stockbridge, Muncie. We've done part of Menominee. We've got Liquid scheduled. We hope to get over to Mole Lake soon and get theirs done. So we're real excited about this project and getting this book done. So hopefully once we get it completed, it can be in the Lac du Flambeau newspaper and let people know that the book's available. So again, thanks for allowing us to come and be a part of this, and congratulations to Tom and the council for this really important accomplishment. So.
Thanks, Bob.
Thanks, Bob. Open mic time. We're just trying to stall for a few minutes. The food is being unloaded. We're going to have a prayer for our food. I think Tomahawk Circle is going to be returning to sing a song. While we're waiting, I just would like to say, again, thank you to everyone that is here, everyone that's coming. Everyone that, I should say, came to celebrate this day with us. It's really important that we remember where we came from, our heritage, our traditions, our customs, and this is just another tribute to our endurance as Indian people, our continued
mindset of not only preserving what we have, but trying to further our causes and further ourselves in society, in today's society. Living contemporarily as an Indian person is, there's this old cliche that you walk in two worlds, but I can really tell you that it is a very true statement. I did this article recently about how Indian people, how they don't separate things. We don't compartmentalize things. We don't say we're going to work this morning and leave our personal life at home and do our 9 to 5, and then once we punch the clock, we turn into somebody else. We take everything with us wherever we go. So that's something that's really unique about us, and a lot of times that's a great tribute, but a lot of times that it weighs heavily on us because things affect us in ways that normal or today's society tells us to get past it or get over it and move on. And a lot of times as Indian people, we don't separate things like that. Our spirituality and who we are goes with us when we're at work, when we're at play, as we raise our families, when we're in school. All these things are always with us, so we're unique in that aspect, I think. If anybody has anything they'd like to say, I'd be more than glad to pass the mic. I don't sing and dance too well, at least not solo, so that's not going to work out too good for anybody, but there's an open mic here. I'm still trying to get the vice chair from Mole Lake to come up and say a few words. I see him everywhere I go. Good looking guy.
Big witch. Hello everyone. Thanks for coming. One thing about Clambo, they always want you to say something. Can't ever sit in the back and just enjoy. But I'm glad to see everybody here. Looks like there's a good turnout for the food. I don't know what really to say, but have a good time, and everybody enjoy the festivities today, and have a good day.
Big witch. Short and sweet.
Yeah.
Like I said before, when Indian people, as an Indian person, when I go somewhere and I see, you always travel and you see people Indian country is a very small, tight-knit country. It's a tight-knit society and culture, and when I see my friends and relatives from Mole Lake, I feel good. When I go to Bad River and I see people I know, I feel good. And I think that's part of, again, being a native and being an Indian that's unique. We always recognize, if I go to Milwaukee, where I was born and raised, if I go to Milwaukee and I see an Indian person walking on the street, I say, people stick out like that. And so I'm really honored, to have the tradition and the heritage I do. I see our former president, Mr. Carl Edwards, attended. I'd like to acknowledge him, the work he's done in the community. Paco, would you like to say a few words just until they unload the food? For those of you that don't know, we have probably the best, what can I say? It's a state-of-the-art facility. It's one of the best, it's the only one of its kind, at least to my knowledge, in the state, maybe even the nation. our Peter Christensen Dental Campus that was recently completed and opened has been a tremendous asset to this community. It has grown from a little side office operation in our tribal center a few years back, maybe 2 chairs, to how many are we running now? 26 chairs in our clinic, in our dental clinic. It's state of the art. If you have a chance, I highly suggest that you stop through there. They do tours, they do group tours. It's an incredible, incredible facility, and they service not only tribal members and other Native Americans, but also non-Indians and others as well. So it's been a huge addition to our community and has provided a level of health that we've never seen. A lot of times we overlook our dental health, and you know, as Indian people, it's important to us to have good self-esteem and to feel good about ourselves. So the clinic has really worked its magic in that aspect, you know, providing the services to tribal members that we normally, in the past, we would just accept that we're just going to deal with things as they come, and you know, the dental cares kind of was a second afterthought. But I have to say, the dental clinic today is one of a kind. It's has a partnership with a number of different universities. Marquette School of Dentistry, Marquette University in Milwaukee, their School of Dentistry has a partnership with our Peter Christensen Dental Campus. Nicolay College has a partnership to provide accreditation for dental assisting, dental hygiene. The list just goes on and on. I know they're looking at doing some work with UW Green Bay, is it possibly, or Lutheran residency program. So at this time, I just want to ask my good friend and somebody that I also call a mentor, Mr. Paco Freilich, the director of our dental clinic. He also had a vision for our community, and that was to provide first-class dental care for the membership. So I'd just like to have you come up and say a few words, Paco.
Wujud Nenui Maganadu, Kabash King Chikoy and Nene Indigenous Cause, Wabashashin and Odin, Swagning and Wow. I'm going to show us what a comedy with them. I didn't prepare a speech, so Brooks put me on the spot here. So I'll have to get him back later. Thanks for the nice introduction, Brandon. I'm just honored to be part of the ceremony today. I mostly grew up in Rhinelander most of my life, and I lived on the reservation and when I was 10 years old and went to school here and hung out in the back of the Candlewick Inn. Anybody remembers that? My grandma was Viola Bossis. My grandpa was Stanley Christensen. And so I always had a connection to Lac du Flambeau. Obviously my mom, Muriel, is from here. My dad, Len, is from Rhinelander. So, and we'd come up and see my grandma all the time. So I have a lot of memories of Lac du Flambeau and always felt connected, even though I didn't live here most of my life. I can remember swimming on Sand Beach in my underwear. Telling my mom when I was a little kid, you didn't have a swimsuit, so they just made you go in your underwear. I can remember we'd camp on the campground and we'd go and find arrowheads out there. And so when my grandma passed away, I kind of, my mom and dad didn't live here then, and so I kind of felt like I was losing connection with Lac du Flambeau, and I was kind of just, you know, in the back of my mind, hoping that I would find a way to reconnect or strengthen my connection, and that came about 2007 when Randy Samuelson and Sadie asked me to lunch and talk about the dental program. So that started a journey, and it's allowed me to, I feel like, fully become part of the community, and it's made me feel like a whole person. A lot of my dreams came true that I started having 7 years ago, and it's going to be interesting to see where it goes. But The clinic is a beautiful clinic. It's good, better than we had hoped. We have several specialists in house. We have 2 oral surgeons. We have periodontist doing gum surgery. We have a children's dentist now, which is something we badly needed. We have 2 dentists doing root canals, and hopefully down the road, not too distant future, some braces, orthodontics for our little ones. So we're very proud of how far our program comes. We have 74 people and staff, I should say, and the partnerships Brandon's mentioned have been a long time in the progress, and it's just going to strengthen our program. So it's a real team effort, and I think that I'm very happy to see how the tribe's moving forward and connecting all the departments, and we're working much better together than we have in the last 4 years, I believe. And I think that you're going to see just a whole stronger Health and Human Service division coming up. So we're going to play some music today. We have Kelly Jackson, Bobby Bullitt, and his wife Pam, and my dad Lynn, and myself, and maybe some special guests singing Country Roads. If I can get Brooks up, that's my payback to Brooks right there. So, anybody else that would like to sing a song, you're welcome. We'd like to acknowledge people that have gone on. Maury Big John is a musician that you probably know. I had the luxury of playing with him for about 30 years, and I had a lot of good memories with Maury. He taught me a lot. Some things I probably shouldn't have known even. But we had a lot of good memories. Buddy Brown, I can remember playing with him, and Gene Isaac, who's still around, but I don't think he's playing drums much these days. But just a lot of great memories surrounding music, and I grew up around music, and I was fortunate that my dad gave me that opportunity, and we always had music around the house, and so it's nice I can still share that with him. So I hope you guys enjoy the music today, and thanks for letting me speak.
Oh, this is gonna be long. Can I do this? Last time I was recording when no one was on. But last time I was on when I was taking a break. The whole time we just had to zoom in on Dad, like right where we went. We twisted where he was going. What did I have to tell you? Want his tickle? Everybody was talking last time. Mom was using that to turn it, right, Anthony? Just leave it alone. What does this do right here? What does that do?
While the food is being prepared, you notice how we didn't have as many people here before, but when the food started arriving, there started being more and more people present, so it's a good thing. It's a good thing. There's a lot of great things that has been mentioned earlier. There are a lot of great things happening in Lac du Flambeau. You can see them as you ride through town. We have so many incredible programs and people, and there's a movement right now in the tribe to rebuild our nation, and it's an all-encompassing effort from the schools to the neighborhoods to the tribal government. All throughout the membership in the community, there's this movement to rebuild our nation, to implement curriculum in the school system that is reflective of who we are as a people, our traditional values and our teachings. And like I said earlier, that relationship with the school is important because it's a public school, and it doesn't necessarily, being a public school, have to work so closely as they do with the tribe and the community. So there's this entire effort to rebuild our nation using the 7 teachings, using the morals and principles that we have used for time immemorial since the beginning. So I just want to have real quick before the food is ready, I'd like to have our Constitution Committee Chair, Mr. Richard Jack, come up and just say maybe a few words about some of the work that's happening in Lac du Flambeau, rebuilding the nation, so to speak. And he was present when I rode in the back of a pickup to Tulsa, Oklahoma from Lac du Flambeau. He got to ride in the cab.
It was a great trip. Nindaway Maganadug. Nindigenous cause Meshkawi Gabu. Waswaganing and Donjaba. Makwa Nindo I'm very moved today by listening to all those people that spoke before me. And I wanted to acknowledge and appreciate Akwenzi Yag, Mindamoyag, Mashuma Sananag, Nokoma Sananag, for all the things that they have shared with me to help me understand where I'm at in my world today. And I was so pleased to just be part of this whole effort to rebuild our nation. I started really earnestly about 10 years ago when we were looking at issues of reform and taking a hard look at how our community came to be in the current situation it is, the historical context of where we got to be and how we got to be and how we're going to move forward as a people. So I am really proud of our leadership. They adopted a resolution that in fact states that we are going to embrace this concept of nation rebuilding. And it covers, like Brandon said, 4 broad areas: culture, sovereignty, institutions, and leadership. So it's a real broad encompassing area. Of course, I serve the community in as many ways as that I can. And I do serve on the Constitution Committee. I'm on several advisory boards and a new path in economics. And it's really exciting because I get to go around the community and talk to a lot of the people that are involved in their various programs. And it's been a real exciting time for me. And I just wanted to say also thanks for the opportunity for this community to believe in me and that I could do something worthwhile to help us move us all in a good direction. So I think that's all I want to say today, and I'm really glad to be here and to help celebrate this incredible moment. Thank you.
At this time, I've been given the sign that the food is ready. We're going to ask, again, a very important person, at least to me personally, and I think I'm safe in saying a very important person in our community to come up and speak on behalf of this food. I'd like to ask Mr. Leon Boise Valier once again to come up and say a few words, please. Knowing the language as he does and having the connection is I see it as a tremendous, it's an asset to him, but it's also a burden because so many people seek this gentleman out for different things, and I know that sometimes he feels the weight of our whole community on his back, but he's pretty strong, so I just want to acknowledge him in that aspect.
Amigos. Amigas que bo wisni ang mga minawa amigos siya au naganasit mas kami. Minawa kinawichi maniduman ajwadash nasa mamuya nishtabe ko mga waswaganing. Minawa nagozo ka kinawiya maayawag. Nidash manungum deba wisni ang nasa kwaj magwa manidu naganasit minawa uduk kawajik. Winwa uduk kawajik panenikan taganawab ni gowa kinawiya mga waswaganing. Minawa ka kinaingoji nishtabe walking. Akwe rash nasa winwa ki kajik winwa ga wapik kwechik aki wensi ak vendemoyak kiabe rash nigan mandu udu kuawan dash kash ketunawa kiabe nigan udu kuawan wish ga kedanawan nishnabe wen noa ke ne ni bor shnabe ga minoya siwat anende awat ma aksuwe gwamen anu ish web siang mi rash manungum nasa kwech magwa nu chmon keo tapn modwa iba mi rash na nizan na begwa mi gate tawad magani shiwak mi kema wasagamin Iraq Afghanistan is winde baga waj magwa inda so gish ka begi gish bandu udu kuawan winwa shi magani shiwak ishko kashkatuna wat bi shegi wa wat manishna be walking mi dash e ajik mi kema chmukmani odenang nishna bege aptu se tikaye mi menwa dash ke oma waswaganin wishki aya ka khina mi dashomanungum kwech magwa ke winwa maya indangi udak no do nujimo wan menwa mashkau jiwan chimeno ayawan mi dash ka kinawiya umaya wag menwa denwa magnuan aya sekwa kwech magwa ke abe mandu udu kwawan menwa ke dasho o jwen dag zuan ke abe nishnabe ge udak mo waswagni mi wenchi umay pitenda gwak wisre te maga kumanungum winwa chipa kwechik ka pindaga tuna wa wisno na ma kwech magwa ge winwa ge menwa udenwa magnuan o dap no at misku manuga na nuwa mi wenchi umanungum nasa kwech magwa wisno ma mandugo dap no menwa da shuma nishnabe na bishma ge wan winwa ndu kweweni mi gwech denwa magnu miu
Big Wish Boy, see Miigwech. At this time, we're going to ask that gentlemen are going to do a song as we get everybody lined up to eat. We're going to ask that the elders eat first, out of respect. Visitors, people that have traveled, our relatives that have traveled a distance, visitors, guests, elders. If you know an elder that can't make it up, please help them, assist them in getting a dish. So at this time, we'd like to have our elders and visitors, guests, please partake in the food. Tomahawk circle.
I'll be right behind you. Visitors are not from West Florida. So can I?
Yeah.
Yeah, they have it right up.
Bonjour. It's the Bungie Koi Gagi Gitoyan Gigagawishmik. And I'd like to greet y'all good afternoon. And I have an Indian name, it's Nishu Gabo. I'm still standing. I'm a member of this tribe here. Then and I came over here like in 1995. They had a gathering called Strawberry Island Days. And remember that morning we built a fire over here. People said some words in regards to Strawberry Island. My English name is Donnie Careful. Donald Careful Sr. Tribal member 1904.
Oh yeah.
And
I'm gonna roll with you guys.
to be here. And then in 2012, that my mother, she passed away. And at that time when they had that Strawberry Island Days, my mother was here. And we had her over here because she's a member of the Dakota tribe. When she passed away, she was the oldest member of her tribe. Her name was Alice Careful, Alice Redwing. Her Indian name is Wambadiwa Shtewi, Good Eagle Woman. And my Sioux relatives, they call Ojibwe people, they call them Kakatawa. That means you're somebody's peeking at you from behind something. Maybe looking at you from behind a tree. Maybe they're ready to shoot you with an arrow or something, you know. So that's what they call Ojibwe people. And Ojibwe people, my Ojibwe relatives, they call Sioux people. They call them a couple different names. They call them names. They call them Bwanug, and they call them Nadaway Souk. That's where that word Sioux comes from, our Ojibwe language. Anyway, Brandon asked me if I felt like saying a few words, and then I thought I'd acknowledge my Dakota people. There's Dakota and then Lakota. And there's some Nakota too. And I'm really thankful that I could have blood relation amongst these tribes. The Ojibwe tribe, they're the largest tribe in North America, the most populous. 20-some reservations within Wisconsin, Minnesota, Michigan, North Dakota, Montana, and they're out there in Quebec, all over Ontario, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, even British Columbia. I would say that I'm really thankful. I'm glad I belong to the largest tribe in North America. And then anyway, I'm going to say that, and then our Sioux people and our Ojibwe people, they were at peace a lot of different times throughout the years. And they would be at peace and they would be at war again. And so a lot of the bloodlines, they blended. And then the Dakota people, the Eastern Sioux, the Woodland Sioux they call them, they're different than Lakota. They got similar language. But the Dakota, they used to have ceremonies like the Ojibwe people. They got a word in their language for wild rice, and they used to live around here, and that's why people wanted to be around here, because it's a beautiful country. And they found some cultural resource at our power grounds about maybe 20 years ago, 15 years ago. They found some kind of stone, some other fragments, and they determined that it was 10,000 years old. And then I found some things too on the reservation too. My research said it was about 14,000 years old.
Me, I'm a brother.
So our native people have been living around here for a long time. We used to belong on a cultural committee for the tribe here. And people from the state, they said, what's a nice place today was a nice place 500 years ago. And so then there's probably been little greasy brown Indian kids swimming on this beach right here for a couple thousand years.
Am I one of them? I have full color. Yeah,
Some of you that used to swim here, you're getting yourself re-greased right
yeah,
about now.
him, his brother, and his other brother, and me.
And I'm thankful, you know, to be here. Thankful to live here. Thankful to my mother lived there for a long time. My dad, member of this tribe, and my mom and dad were able to keep up the hostilities for another 44.5 years.
Wait, no.
Skirmishes now and then like that. And then, well, I was thinking about that, you know, different tribes and how people get along and like that, you know. And nowadays, you know, then all our families too, we have different tribes in our bloodlines.
How many sisters?
We're a different tribe and sometimes different races. And that word Anishinaabe, that means Ani is from Nishina, is to be lowered. Abe, that's the male. You lowered man to the earth.
Did you watch?
And so then that's the only word that we really have. You could say the mod is the jig, the ones that are alive. That could be the deer, that could be the gophers or whatever. So that word Anishinaabe, that's the really only word we have for a human being. And so that we're all human beings. And we're all recognized by the Creator. Anyway, Brandon asked me to say something, and that's about all I can think of.
Oh, cool. You got us a dog? Here, boy.
Whoever cooked all this food, like that, whoever, you know, then all the procedures that happened, negotiations, thank you to the tribe for doing what they did to make this happen. And been looking at that island for a long time. Remember when we were kids, they say, don't go on there, don't go over to that island. Oh yeah, one more. Joe Kelty, big man, he called him, I can't remember his Indian name. He said his grandmother was a Sioux captive. She was 7, 8 years old, and she was captured by the Ojibwe people, and they raised her. And pretty soon she forgot her the Quaker language and spoke Ojibwe for the rest of her life. And then he was saying that around this lake here, there was mass graves. They buried the Ojibwe people and they buried the Sioux people together. There were so many people died during those battles that they had to, you know, take care of them right away. There's so many of them. However, how many days or whatever, weeks or whatever long it lasted, you know. This is, that's why they kind of used to hear them say that's why they hold this island sacred. And then, I guess in closing, then September 14th of last year, my brother, he set up a teepee on my mom's yard over there. And had a man come from Mount Rushmore. Sioux man come over there and led us in ceremony. We prayed. Morning time, they hit the drum. And the Loons started singing. And the third song, the Eagles, and right above the teepee, chirping around. So I'll try to say that much, you know, and wish each one of you a long life and a good blessing like that, you know. Your family, each one of your homes, your little children, like that, your elders, you know, thank you for being here.
No one.
Brandon was trying to give me a dish, but I told him I ate yesterday, so.
Big Chief, I named this one guy named Big Chief. Okay, my actual life is named Big Chief.
Musicians walking around here and
What's all that on here? Big Chief, tell me what.
tuning up.
David, what were we talking about?
I can't think of anything else to say. I can, but I'm kind of bored by now.
What was your other life like? My guy's name is Kamal. This is RD. He has a
Okay, you get that.
and he has a
Let me think of this one
he's a
here.
friend named Big Black, and
My sister Mildred, she sing a song for
Dad, this is a sugar.
But, and then we were over there and we were praying like that. And myself, I belong to Native American Church, and that's all tribes belong to that
There's 850,000 members across the United States. And this one here, it, talks about the last day when this creation is going to come to an end, and then talking to the Creator, talking to that Spirit, and it talks about that time. It said, "Ask the Creator to remember me." They said the Creator is going to be up on top, the Great Spirit, and then the light's going to be shining down. And they're going to be singing a brand new song. A brand new song that we haven't heard yet. And said, ask the Creator to remember us. So,
It's totally so.
I'm going to go ahead and try it. Lakota, Dakota language.
Renee. It's not her. Who? Who's not my age? Yeah, she is.
And when you can't make so you we are not one. Waka Tanka, Eto Kamya, Hayabeke, Ottawa, Techa, Ahaya, Pintedo, and when you can't make so you we are the Yori. And when you can't make so you we are the Yori. Hey, what they can't make so you Everybody can't mix so you we are the Yori. Everybody can't mix so you we are the Yori. Everybody can't mix so you we are the Yori. Thank you for your attention.
Well, we are. I'm telling you. Give me that resume. What do you? It's gonna take abuse me. Here, wait. Oh my god. Potatoes on it.
Do it. You could be strong like David.
Can you take a bite of this? Take a bite. Okay. I know.
You can take a beer away from the problem. 100 pounds.
I'm on. How tall are you?
I think I'm 6 feet.
How old are you? Not 6 feet. My dad's 6 feet.
Where is he? I think I'm...
He just left.
Oh, I think I'm the same height as him.
No, I don't. My brother's taller than me.
I'm taller than your brother.
Yeah. He looks like he's like 18. Wait, how old is Mel?
I'm taller than him. Like by this much.
What? Is Carl the Mel?
I think Cameron should start working out.
Does he have like 99 speed? Does he like run and just walk somebody?
You think you should?
I don't know. I know you just say it. Next time we had a basketball game, when he's running, when he's down to the I said, look at his amazing speed!
I'll just go like this and it'll pop up.
He's like, yeah, look at this. That's amazing. Look at that amazing speed. That was torch. Remember when he came over and we went for Slenderman hunting? Oh, remember when I came over? We didn't see those cars. We didn't go near them. We moved out of that. Yeah. It's hard. Like, there's a...
What?
There's a lot of deer and then there's horses. There's wild horses, right here? Yeah. I'm gonna come over.
I was clearing all of them.
There's horses over there. It's gonna suck if I see them. Today we're gonna go cut it from my miles. Please, it's gonna slow down. When it gets off of it, someone says that it's gonna go a little fast.
Yeah, you're
want to call. You can ask your little brother. Daddy, is your good? No, you have to be his friend. I have to subscribe. On Xbox Live. I am, seriously? You barely ever on Xbox. Yeah, I am. Do you have ever played Modern Warfare? I can't play Black Ops anymore.
Because he broke it.
Shut up! I didn't break it.
Yeah, he did. He got so mad he took it out and he snapped it.
You did that, really? No.
Yeah, he did. That's how mad he got.
You shut up! He's a rager.
I know, he is.
Did he rage that bad?
Yeah.
No, I didn't.
No, this is what he did. This is what he did. I was there. I heard him on.
No, you didn't.
He was
No,
sitting-
you weren't there.
Let everybody be it known that everything you're eating has been talked over, I guess, that you can have more food as well. So please finish up what you have and then go back in line and get some more. It's summertime, don't worry about your figures. Come on.
Oh, that looks great. Are you getting more? The only thing I ate today, Actually, I bought like night last night. I did. Even bought his girlfriend.
He has a girlfriend?
Yeah.
What's her name?
His name is Slippy. No, I don't.
Is she hot?
She's lying.
Is she hot?
I didn't know that was somebody that named me that.
Are you sure?
I'm pretty sure.
Are you sure?
Yes, I'm sure.
Are you positive?
Yes, I'm positive.
His girlfriend is her name is Nana. She's girls. You know she's my sister. She's girls. Do you know her in real life? The girl here. Are you guys gonna meet up or something? What's your Instagram name? Wait, what's your Instagram name? I'll follow you.
No, he's a stalker. Hey, Cameron. Wait, ask him what? Not talking.
Hi, Ron. Hey, Ron, I talked to your mom and she doesn't love you.
Oh, yeah, he did.
No, wait, no. What's Cameron's girlfriend's Instagram
Oh,
girlfriend?
I know what it
Does
is.
she like any of his photos?
That's a brownie.
Oh, you're already on it?
Wait, he's dating a boy?
Yeah.
Oh, he's gay. What, does he know how Cameron looks? Does he know how he looks? Is she following you? Oh my god.
You have to. What's your name? Just tell us.
Or else I can just...
Yeah, what's your name? Why are you following her?
There were 2 bananas on it.
What is your passport?
What is it? 3, 4, 5, 6. Wait, what did he say?
Her?
Ooh, that's it.
I just took a random guess.
Give me it. That's not even yours. Ooh, oh, right there.
What's your name? 1 second.
GK. Stop that block.
Are you following her or you lie? Are you lying?
I thought I was. I thought I was. Wait for my Charmander. Oh, don't look at that. Wait, Cameron, are you sure you didn't pay her? You're good. Did you pay her? Did you pay her? I'm watching now. I'm sure. Watch. Don't you go over and see her.
How you check your suitcase too?
Wait, is
Is he out
his
for you
name,
or is there stuff on there?
His name is Armageddon. His? Yeah. No, his name was Armageddon. Armageddon? Yeah. Oh, that's not cute. Don't say. Oh my god. What did he say? Let me see it. Hold on. Let me see it. Let me see it. Racing sound right.
Just can't remember.
You said that. One on my dog. Oh, wait, man. It said you're sick.
It's not my fault you dropped it.
It didn't send it to you, though. I might just go to bed. Why? Separating out the We're not bad influences. We never egged a house. You have the extra? It's in the book. You have extra. Wait, where is it? No, I have friends. I'm glad you're in. Am I in trouble? Wait, Dad, they're in trouble.
Sunny days that I thought would never end.
Why are you worried?
And I've seen lonely times when I could not find a friend.
I bet you I can.
Who are you stealing from who? His girlfriend?
I took a cut. He's actually